Welcome to the Spiritual Principles Made Practical podcast. I'm your host, Scott Friedman, and today we have Maria Ingelsby, who I'm really excited because she has a scientific background and she's taken that into spirituality and leadership and stuff. And that's exactly what I did. So it's very rare that I have the pleasure of talking to somebody that has a background as similar to mine. So welcome. It's wonderful to have you here.
Well, thank you. I really, really appreciate the opportunity. And we just spoke of the fact that this is my very first podcast. So I'm excited to have the opportunity, but I'm also excited to have the very first audience taking this inner journey outward. So,
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I mean, an example is the most powerful form of leadership. And so, you know what? You're going to be an inspiring example to all the people that have only listened to podcasts and never been on one, and they say, well, you know what? She did it fine. I guess I can too. 'Cause
yeah.
that's one of the principles that I hold near and dear is that example is the most powerful form of leadership.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And the other example that I really wish to set is I haven't met a whole lot of scientists. This is why I'm excited to be here with you. That actually have gone on their inner journey and then have had the gumption to take it out into the world.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was
Well, I mean,
this,
but go ahead.
yeah, it was this, am I going to actually own this, right? Am I going to own this journey? Yes, I am. So here we are.
Well, but here's like where my scientific background has been immensely valuable because when trying to decide what's true and what's right, right, it's like, okay, well, how do you do that, right? And particularly now that we're in the land of like misinformation, right?
Yes. Yep.
But the scientific method says that if the results are repeatable without variation over time, that you can trust that.
Correct.
And so what I found was is that anytime that I would get these ideas, right? And some of them would be like, you got to be kidding me, right? You know, but 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 every time that I got an idea, I would evaluate how complete was my inner alignment. And when
Yes.
my inner alignment was complete beyond a certain level, that thought that I had was always true and beneficial,
Yeah.
100% of the time.
Yeah.
And so I said, I have a scientific background. Science says that if this is reproducible, then it's reliable.
Yes.
That's science.
Yeah.
So I've trusted that, and as I've gone along, so much of my inspiration has gotten like wackier. I mean, I won't say wackier. I'll say different than the norm.
Yes. More expansive, definitely.
And 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 part of my thinking is also that uh, stress is produced by denying what's true.
Correct.
So if I get this idea right, and I have that inner congruence that says it's true, then I need to act on it, even if it's something that I think most people would label me crazy for. And like, hey, it's been nice knowing you, like lose my phone number, right?
Been there. Yep. Been there.
And so now, and we talked about this through our emails a little bit, is that uh, working on time.
Yes.
We have, I mean, when you say that the only time that exists is in the present moment, there's a lot of people that, I mean, and even good friends of mine that love me, know me, trust me for years and stuff. He says to me, he says, can you help me like get my arms around? It's like, I mean, you're my friend, so I don't really want to like, call the loony bin for you, but I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt here, but can you help me out?
I've drawn a picture for a friend actually who was taken for a loop by that. Because I said, time, it just slipped out in conversation. I said, well, I don't live there anymore. I don't believe in that. Common consensus agrees on aging. And oh, did we get into a conversation there? And I said, yeah, because the common consensus believes that time is linear, but it isn't. And it just sort of slipped out. And he said, what do you mean time is not linear? So I drew this little picture of the clock rolling along a linear line. Yeah, you're born, and then the clock rolls along the linear line, and you age, and your body does its things, and then then you die. I said, well, that's not exactly how it works. Well, how would you know? I said, well, because I hang in meditation quite a bit. You know that space.
Yeah.
And I said, it's expansive and it's infinite. And I am that. So I'm eternal. I know this. And I said, time feels you're in it. It's not, it doesn't, there is no end, there is no beginning, and it's definitely not linear.
Yeah.
And I said, you know this, when you're in the present, you have no tracking of time. It just vanishes on you completely. I said, but when you're being rushed and you live in the calendar, then it runs you. And I said, so just give up on the calendar for a little bit. And he goes, what do you mean live up on it? That was just inconceivable, but I have to live by that because it tells me where I need to be when. And I said, well, I'm trying to unclip from that as often as I can, possibly, so that you
I,
can be in that
I,
expansive state, you know?
I thought what you said was so right on when you said that, when you're in the present moment, time doesn't exist,
Right.
and it's like, and the present moment could be described as the present moment, being in the moment, being inspired in the moment,
Yes.
being in the zone. All those are to me are synonyms for being present, right? And one of the things that I like to ask people, I says, well, and somebody said, "Man, I was really in the zone out there. That was fabulous and stuff." And I said, "Man, that's awesome." I said, what were you thinking when you were in the zone?" And they go like,
Yeah, exactly.
"I wasn't thinking anything. It was only after I got out of the zone and reflected back in it that I had any idea that I was in the zone." And
Right.
it's like, okay, and it's like, were you trying to accomplish something and were you trying to track something or were you just being? And they said, "Oh no, I was just being,
Right.
and it's like, there you go." I mean,
Yes.
that's one of the things that I think is so wonderful about the coaching that I do. And I put it out there because I really want other people to at least have an opportunity to be exposed to this idea. And the idea is that when I'm in the present moment and and I'm just allowing my being to flow through as it will, inspired, I have every confidence in the world because I have that inner congruency, right? That what I'm saying is the absolute optimal thing, and the way I'm saying it, and when I'm saying it, and who I'm saying it to, and all of that is totally optimized in a way that trying to orchestrate it could never do.
Correct. Correct. So there is a flow to that is so amazing that people get to watch this. So I get the question all the time, well, how the heck do you do this? And how did that come into your life? Like, you didn't plan that. You didn't research anything, right? You didn't. I said, no, but I got to this juncture in my journey, and then this next thing was needed, and then it just showed up.
So tell
And
me about the juncture in your journey
to
that
this,
brought you to that point.
oh, okay. So I've been journaling on the journey because I am or have scientific training. I went ahead and I went chasing cause and effect is what it was. So I'm
Yeah,
sitting there with my journey and I'm
yeah.
sitting there in an event that you, from your earth perspective, would never choose for yourself. So in this case, it was an illness in the family. And I'm like, we would never choose this for ourselves. So how does this come here? Like, so then you're looking at what's the cause of this? Not I didn't eat right or I didn't. I said there has to be an underpinning, some deeper down that we don't see or don't pay attention to. And it's accruing over time. We're just not paying attention. So to me, it was this we didn't pay attention somewhere. And what came of it in the end was that I decided, okay, why don't I journal on this, on my thinking and on this. And so then we ended up in the hospital, is what it was, with my husband having a cardiac arrest.
Oh
I
my.
found him. So that was one of those events that you would never have planned for yourself. But I'm sitting in the hospital, he's in a coma, and the thought that comes, so I'm asking nobody in particular, like, how the hell did I get here?
Yeah,
Was
yeah,
the
yeah.
question exactly. And what came was, this is an answer to a prayer. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, a prayer? I didn't post, I couldn't remember. I posted a prayer, I did. And then, but the day went on, right? You're in the hospital, you're dealing with doctors, you're dealing with nurses. But then in the evening, finally, I got into bed and I'm laying in bed and pictures come back through. And it was a couple of days before. I remember us sitting, a good friend of ours had passed, and my husband had struggled with that knowing. Yeah, but we were just on a job site last weekend and we were supposed to be on another job site. He can't just be like the person got ripped out of his life so fast. He just didn't see it coming. And then I said, well, why don't we sit and, pray for the family and pray for that the soul gets to its light in a smooth and beautiful fashion. And then out of nowhere, out of somewhere inside came this, would you like to have the fear of the unknown taken off of us? And I have no clue where that came from. This was not Maria was thinking. This just,
No, no, I totally know. It's like when your mind is open and stuff.
yeah.
And
So there it came. And he goes, yes, let's do that. So I remember sitting in the car by the ocean because we were on the road at the time, prayed, okay, whomever out there, we would like to have the fear of the unknown taken off of us. Well, the very next day, he had his cardiac arrest. And then when I was
wow.
laying in bed at night, I'm like, what the heck? Like, how did we create this? How the hell did this get here? Um, that's what came. It's like your prayer is being answered. And it was this understanding, and I call this is another word, spherical receiving. It doesn't come linear, it's a spherical receiving. It comes in
Right.
different, you see it from different places and different angles and different perspectives, kind of all at once.
Right. Right. Right.
And we're
Right.
sort
Right.
of in the middle of this. And so I got this sphere of understanding that we're being guided forward to have this fear taken off of us. And it just doesn't look like what Maria would have chosen in that moment, kind of
Right.
thing.
Right. 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 Right.
And but and then the unfoldment, and I thought, well, if we're being guided, then I don't need to overthink this thing. I'm just gonna go with the flow. So I completely surrendered into this unfoldment. I totally sat there and I thought, he's in a coma. I'm sitting by the bedside. Maria can do nothing about this. As a persona, I just gave up. As a persona, I sat by the bed and I said, I'm just going to surrender into this because I can't fix this. You get
Right.
to a place where you can't control a single thing.
I have a question, right? I want to ask it just right
Yes.
at this juncture. At that time, did you have a pervasive sense of well-being?
Well, that came a minute later
Okay.
because because I sat by the bedside, and in the moment that I thought, there's nothing I can do here. So there was no need to be frustrated. There was no need, like this whole situation was so completely out of Maria's hands.
Right. Right. Right.
And I'm usually a doer. I can get this done. I'm in charge. I can take control of this thing. Well, this thing I couldn't control. So I just gave up on this whole control thing. And in that moment, I was sitting by the bedside. Behind me was a window, and there was no space. Like I'm squished between the bed and the window in the ICU. And behind me, I'm like, this, I have hands on my shoulders. And I thought, this is creepy. There's nobody behind me. There's no space. There can't possibly be something behind me. But it was this really soft, calming touch.
Yeah.
And then on my inner screen, and that was the first time that had ever happened to me, I saw St. Francis. And I thought, St. Francis is behind me. But then the scientist is observing and is going, but that can't be, right? Like the scientist is over here watching this, thinking, this isn't real. Like he can't be there. There's no space between me and like this whole situation was kind of surreal. And I
Yeah.
sat there and I thought, should I just now be freaked out, or should I question my sanity? But then this sense of well-being came washing over me with such an intensity. It was almost like, hell with it. This feels good. And
Yeah.
then
It,
I
it
just,
just it just overwhelms everything.
yes, it overwhelms everything. That sense of well-being overwhelmed everything. And I've never remembered being in a place like that ever before. And I totally, absolutely surrendered into that moment. And then from then on forward, stuff was happening that we, with our earthly mind, could never have planned or orchestrated. Never,
Right.
never. Everything fell into place. All the equipment he needed, the doctors he needed, the help he needed, everything just appeared like out of nowhere. We could not have scripted this. We could not have planned this. It was just extraordinary. And that whole story is in this first book that's coming out because it created such a profound shift in my life that I thought, this kind of magic and this kind of help and this kind of, it's not coming from here, it's coming from another plane. It felt like this is coming from a higher plane. I may not understand with my scientific mind, but I could feel that if I just allow it, that it will create an outcome I can't plan, and that is okay. That I will be okay, he will be okay, everything will be okay. And when the physician came in, or the physician came in to say, okay, you might have to make a decision, life support, yes or no, in a few days, depending, which that's also a place I really never want to find myself in
Yeah,
again.
no kidding.
And then a pastor came in, or um, minister, female minister, and she said, would you like to pray for your husband? Yes. And my two sons were there by the bedside with their dad. And she said, well, what would you like to pray for? And again, out of my mouth came,
Mhm.
whatever is for the greatest benefit of my husband's soul.
Good for you.
And she goes, strange request. I said, why? She says, well, what does that mean? Don't you want him to come back to you? I said, well, sure, but there's a spirit. He's a spirit. He's a soul. And I cannot, from my earthly perspective, know what is best for his soul. Is it best for him to transition and be on with his soul evolution and soul growth? Or is it best for him to come back to us and experience his soul growth on the earth plane? And she says, how do you even? I said, I don't know. That's, but the understanding all of a sudden was there that that's not my decision to make. It just, I understood somewhere deep inside of me that this is not my decision to make. This is his soul. And so I said, well, why don't we just ask his, like, pray for his soul, whatever's best for his soul. She says, okay. So, but also that letting go, I didn't recognize this until years later. That letting go, that to me is what true love is. When you can let go of the people and you don't have to cling to them, and you don't, because that's the physical form of a spirit that is so much larger than the appearance of the physical form, right? But I had to journey into that. But somehow the download was there, or the understanding somehow was there. And I could not have explained in a million years in that moment where that came from. But I just let it work through me, basically. It's like it's just working itself through me. And it felt good. Like it always came with extraordinary well being.
That's the key. That's the key. Boy, I'm telling you, when you experience that, I'm the words that I put to it is that I'm okay. I've always been okay. I always will be okay. I could never be anything other than okay.
Right.
And it's like those are the words that come out of my mouth when I'm experiencing this just overwhelming sense of well-being.
Yes. And it really is overwhelming. Sometimes I had to just remember to breathe. That is
Yeah.
this amazing love that comes washing in, that just embraces the entire body in a way that I had never experienced before. But then after we got home and he did recover, I went seeking that. It's like there has to be like this. Here comes the science out, right? Like I have to research this. I want to understand this. I want to have clarity. And so I would stomp around with gusto. I say with gusto, I'm stomping around. Okay, I need to have pristine clarity on the stuff, right? Like pristine clarity. Give me pristine clarity. Whoever I'm talking to, pristine clarity. That's my gig. And then I started journaling like a mad hatter. And sometimes I would sit and laugh and say, yeah, I'm an investigative journalist.
Absolutely. No,
I'm
absolutely.
researching this cause and effect thing. Now, what is causing this stuff? Where's that coming from? And I'd been raised Catholic in Germany during my
Okay.
upbringing, but that was so restrictive. And so it was more, I felt more like an obedience training at the time when I was little. Like I was always told, you don't question your parents and you never question the priest.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then when I got older and the questions came, my parents were like, you can't ask those kinds of questions. Why? And, well, the priest wouldn't like that. Well, and I kept feeling like, but it's not my job to have him like me. I just need to have my questions answered. And so I left that behind because that wasn't working for me at the time. It's like this, it felt like a cage kind of. It felt
Oh
like,
yeah. My wife tells a story that when she was a child in church, she used to cry
well,
because what they were saying was so, restrictive
upset her.
and
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so I left that behind a long time ago. So the idea of God as this being on a chair someplace that judges when you get there, I always questioned that. I said, that just doesn't make any sense. But I could not have explained this. I just didn't make any sense to me.
Right.
Sciences, that made sense to me.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like quantum stuff, vibrations, energy, working on spectroscopy equipment, that made sense. Like that, I can see that, I can measure that, I can, right? So that was good. And then yeah, so the idea of a God never that it's like that there has to be some other explanation, there has to be some other, right? And it's like I wasn't going to dismiss supernatural. To me, that was like high energy quark. I was like quark exists on three levels, right? The low frequency, higher frequency. I said there's something there because science can measure this stuff. They can see this. So whatever we want to call that, there is a higher energy something because I can feel this now. But I just wanted to connect all of that. So I've been literally 10, 12 years now journaling cause and effect. What is a prayer I placed and have the fear of the unknown lifted off of me? And that was a big one. I didn't know. Had to live into that.
Yeah.
Um, and then I just journal, okay, oh, here's another prayer. Here's another wish that I placed or another desire. And then I just, when it usually came out of left field, and Maria wasn't paying attention. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Wait. This thing belongs to that wish that I placed a while back. I'd go through the journal book, right? And hook all these pieces together. And eventually this knowing emerged. But then also what was happening is that because of his illness, I got to get into energy healing practice. A friend of mine called and he says, "You're so curious. You always want pristine clarity." And he says, "Why don't we go to an open house and see what Master Co of pranic healing does?" So he and I went. He says, "Just come along. Nobody's going to bite. It's going to be woo woo weird." But and I said, "I'm good with woo woo weird. I've been through interesting experiences by now, so let's do it." And I got into pranic healing, and my understanding broadened in ways that I could not have done in the sciences. And so I entered into energy healing and did that. Was in training and in classes for or like a decade.
Wow.
And so that in the end, I was sitting there. It's like it's really the same thing. Spirituality and science in the end is really the same thing, except if we had this ball of essence, science is looking through a window here, and and religion or whatever you want to call it, spirituality, esoterics is looking at through a lens from here.
Exactly.
So it's just we're all looking at the same thing through a different camera lens, if you will.
Right.
And so that it broadened the picture in ways I could not have done had I stayed in the sciences. So and then eventually the whole thing knitted itself together in ways I could not have seen coming. And that's when I started writing. It's like, we got to write this up. Like I have this clarity now and this is exciting. And people would ask all these questions. It's beautiful. You have all this clarity. Why don't you write this up? Have you written a book? No, 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 but I could. Well, why don't you? Okay. So I started writing, and the writing was really, it was fun until somebody said, well, we got to publish this. And I'm like, oh.
I've been there. I've been there too.
So but yeah, and then I found an editor, so we got this work edited, and that felt really good. And there were a lot of questions from yet another lens, which was very helpful in, okay, I have to learn to articulate this stuff. Just because it's clear in my head
Right.
doesn't mean I can now articulate this to somebody who has not been on that juncture along the journey. And
Yeah.
then the fun part came when the papers just set, and I didn't realize for the longest time I've got this knot in here, solar plexus down there. It's like there's a fear there. I'm not quite ready to step out, but I didn't have the clarity at the time. It's like, why isn't this project moving forward? Well, and then my sister came to visit from Germany. She says, you don't own that thing anymore. If this kind of work helps, like it's helping me, it needs to be with the people. And I looked at her and I said, I needed that. I needed to hear that. I needed to be told that. And she's very loving empath. She's a nurse. She says, this is going to help. Like, if it would even help one person, would you publish it? And I said,
Absolutely.
Yes, I would.
Absolutely.
Yes, I would. And then within a week that she left, within a week, Monday morning, I get up. I'm like, okay, I'm going to grab this next chapter. I'm going to sit outside. I'm going to edit through this. I'm going to do this thing. I receive a text from a friend. Hey, what about this? What about this? And through that text, I got to meet another person and another person. And by evening, I had a publishing service.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
It's just,
When the energy clears, things happen.
yes. So the minute I made the decision, you're right. If this would help one person, I'm doing it. And within a week, Melanie, literally in the morning, I had no clue that publishing company existed. I had no clue who she was. And by evening, I had been introduced to her and we'd gotten on a quick Zoom and I'm sitting there. It's like, oh, that's me with a different face in a different state. She felt like, so that's, yep, she's the one. And I knew that I knew that I knew that I knew this was again chosen on a level that is beyond Maria's receptivity or understanding. And we've been working together since, and it's just been a joy. She's exactly, that's a vibrational match.
Right, right.
No pro and con in the head could have produced this.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely. Yeah. So when did you start meditating? Or do you meditate?
Yes, I do. It's one of my favorite stays. uh, I want to say April 2012-ish, so 14 years ago.
Okay.
Because I had anxiety issues. This was another thing where my chemistry sort of, I had anxiety issues and occasional panic attacks, and that does not feel very good.
No.
No.
I've
And
been there too.
yeah, and I said, so then I went to just first off, you go to Western medicine, and the doctor goes, "Oh yeah, there's no problem. We have medication for that. We'll just put you on medication." And I'm sitting there thinking, my body didn't have this before, so I did something to create this scenario. And I'm not sure that medicating the brain is the answer here. So I wasn't, I was like, hmm. So I looked at him. I said, I'll go get the medicine. I'll go get, I call it the MSDS sheet, the paper that comes
Yeah,
with the,
the safety data sheet. Yeah.
yeah. So I went to the pharmacy, got the sheet, and then it listed all the warnings. Well, the side effects and
It's,
all.
it's
And
like,
then
why
one
does
of the,
anybody take this with these warnings, right?
right. And then one of the side effects is suicide. And I thought, no, I'm not ready for that yet. No, no. And that's not how I want to leave this earth place. Definitely not for me. And then I went home and it was another one of those where I sat and told, like, to no one in particular, okay, now we're not taking medicine. That's not the way for me. Bring me an answer. And via Peter Russell, it's a book, Science to God. I figure all that might work. Science to God. In there, he describes what transcendental meditation did for him. So TM.
Right, right.
And I thought, well, if that works for him, that's got to work for me. And he's a dorky scientist like me, so that like I could relate to that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I found myself a TM coach and I got into TM coaching. And within 2 months, all the symptoms were gone. My anxiety was gone. My panic attacks were gone. So that was a super blessing. I have never had those issues again.
So let me ask you a question about that.
Yes.
Were there any, because in my life, when I've had injuries or anything and I recovered from them, it's always been because there was some thought of truth that I was denying
Yes.
and some inaccurate thought that I was engaging in
Yes.
and denying. And that um, uh, as I kind of healed all that through just accepting it that it was
Accepting,
there,
yeah.
right? And acceptance is healing,
Yeah.
is that I would have these cathartic releases, and then the pain level would lessen and never go back,
Correct.
and then the next cathartic release would come and the pain level would lessen and never come back until I was back on the tennis court again. And so, one of the things that, I'm interested is that, I mean, when I hurt my back, it was because uh, even though I knew better, I was seeking that sense of connectivity and togetherness with people
Yes.
uh, by on the tennis court with my friends, and I wasn't giving myself enough time to recuperate in between playing tennis, right? And so eventually, I was like,
Be
but
the
that
part
really
well.
wasn't it. But that really wasn't the issue. The issue was is I was looking for connection outside of myself, even though I had written for decades that when I'm connected to myself, I'm connected to everybody else, and that's the
Correct.
only connection that's really going to be satisfying. And even though that I had written that for decades, I had not um, embraced it and embodied it enough to keep
Yeah.
me from um, going to play tennis and I should have been home resting.
Right. Right. Right.
Because I just finished playing tennis,
Right.
It's like I'm going
Yeah.
back again, it's like so that's one of the things that I did you have anything like that with the fear that you talked about?
Well, it it the whole thing, the fear of the unknown. But again, I did not understand this. I had to journey for years and years and years and watch myself. I had to become my own observer.
Right.
Was that the unknown is who I was in truth. The unknown was not outside of me. The fear of unknown was I don't know my own subconscious. I hadn't dove into my subconscious yet. So the more I journaled, the more I paid attention to what's the thinking that circles around in my head. What are the affirmations that I say, or what do I carelessly say, like when I speak to others, or my internal chatter. What's my internal chatter? I hadn't paid attention to that. It's like my internal chatter isn't really all that cool. So I started to journal on that. What like when I snapped with it during the day, what is it that just went through my head? So write that down. So it over the years I realized the unknown was my true self, right? The unknown wasn't outside of me. It's nothing outside of me. The disclosure sits inside. So I have a friend that he's waiting for spaceships, for example. And I'm like, the disclosure occurs on the inside because eventually you get to learn you're a multidimensional being. You don't live just on this earth level, you live in multiple realities, if you will, simultaneously. And when you get a grip on that, when you get to see that, when you get to experience all that, you realize that when you open your heart, open yourself up to receiving beings other than what walks around on the planet. And so that to me is what disclosure is. And so the more I got to know my insights, the less I had that fear. It just went away. It's like there is no unknown. The unknown is on the inside. And if I can just keep, occasionally I would think I'm going down there with this little headlamp, right?
Uh,
Headlamp, go down there, spelunking down there to see what else can we find there? What else is down there I haven't seen yet? And then eventually it was like, okay, well, if something's down there, I can feel the trigger. If I get triggered or if something shows up that doesn't feel very good, now let's go down there and have a look. And so I do help people do that. It's like if they're triggered, instead of pointing fingers outward, it's like, you
right.
attracted that into your life. Why don't we take the headlamp or flashlight or whatever and get down in there? How did I attract this into my life? What is the vibrational stuff I'm emitting 24/7 that is bringing these kinds of events or people or circumstances into my life? Once you see it, that outside, as you know, corrects itself, right? It changes. When your inside changes, your outside changes
Immediately.
immediately,
Immediately.
right? Immediately, exactly. And so, but that's the thing that a lot of people question because it's this, well, there's this one reality. And if I just push hard enough and force, I call that plowing today. I call that
Yeah.
plowing versus allowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
They go plowing. Well, if I just push hard enough and if just force hard enough enough to, well, then it'll yield. I said, but it takes so much effort. So,
Yeah.
so I really encourage people. It's like, why don't we start on the inside and then allow the outside to adjust itself? Because it has to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It has to.
Yeah.
The whole thing is vibrational. You're a vibrational being. You emit that 24/7, and the universe responds in kind.
Yeah, I mean, so I was interviewing somebody the other day and he said, boy, he said, I wake up in the morning and I have an issue and then all my clients and patients that come to me all day seem to have the same issue. And I said,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
the lens. That's the lens that you're seeing through at the moment. That for what
Right,
you need to learn and go. So,
right.
but for me, I if I take a look at what my intention has been since I was a child, it's everywhere I look, it was like, you know what, I want to realize as much of my potential as I possibly can.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and I've had that as an inner desire, along with the feeling that I am capable of so much more than this. And so now I've gotten to where I'm digging a lot in like the my 14th book, which I finally got written. I'm still typing it in and stuff, but is creation, the how and the why, because I wanted to understand in greater detail how creation works. And,
Yes.
and one of the things that and what I've come to is that the mind creates at the direction of the will. So that the mind is, and this is like when earlier I talked about, when you get inspirations, right, and you think that everyone's going to label you as nuts. Well, here we go.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
Is
Yeah.
that I was thinking about how when I was in college and I took physics 4B, I didn't really understand physics 4B till I got into physics 4C, and then I could see it from outside, right?
Yes.
I could
Yep.
see the forest from the trees at that point, right?
Yeah.
I could see why this was done and how this worked and how it all, more how things fit together. And so I realized that, my mind creates my world, but to really have an understanding of my mind, I need to move beyond it the same way I had to do physics 4C to understand physics 4B.
Yes. Yeah.
And so then that's where I got into, okay, so there was the mind, and then a higher vibration up from that is the will, which creates the mind and directs the mind. And a lot of times people talk about it as our intention. That's our will. And then above that is undifferentiated being. And that's like the just everything is all right, but there's no comparison, because that's the mind creates all of everything that's a comparison.
Yeah. Well, we sit in the dualistic world for that
Right. The
reason.
mind, the mind creates the dualistic world, but being is beyond the dualistic
Yes.
world.
Yep.
And so what I've been playing with here in the, I don't know, most recent couple of months or so, or whatever it's been, I don't know. Time is
Lose
like,
track. Yeah. Time
who,
becomes irrelevant.
like who can keep track of that?
Right.
So is that I'll go and I'll be creating suffering for myself in the dualistic world, and I'll go, oh, okay, I'm creating contrast so I can experience, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. I can just, the good and the bad, the love and the hate,
Yeah.
and I can experience that contrast.
You get to transcend it then, though.
Right. And then as soon as I have that, it's like, okay, I can continue with this, or I can just detach and leave the whole mind and its whole creation of dualistic thinking and creation behind and go up into just rest in being. And I think of that as is like taking a nap in some ways, because there's no differentiation, right? There can't if I'm everything that is, and I'm one with all that is, then there's nothing outside of me.
Correct.
So I can't create anything, because it would have to be outside of me, and nothing is outside of me.
Yeah. There is nothing. Right. So
And
we're
I
not
mean,
hanging.
I'm all that exists, and so that
Right.
there can't be any comparison or differentiation. And so there's this tremendous sense of well-being that I don't even notice until I leave that state, right? Because to have it to be able to label something well-being, I'd be able to compare it to not well-being.
Yeah, or in this case, this stretching into a whole new phase. This is a stretching into a whole new phase of my life. So so I sometimes I would sit there and say, well, this might be the lady's perspective. It's like, does soul get stretch marks? Because you sit there and it's like, okay, so I'm totally willing to publish this book. And then I'm talking with Melanie, and she says, yeah, I'll help you do that. I said, don't give me everything ahead of time because I'll freak out. I'll go back into my spiritual closet. It's very comfortable there. You know,
Yeah.
that's right. You hang in your being state. Oh, this is so profoundly peaceful. Why would I want to leave here?
But
And
that,
then she goes, but down the road, we're going to have to launch this thing. I'm like, okay, you'll hang on to the launch until I'm ready, right? Like, but so she was really cool about taking me by the hand one step at a time. Okay, so next week we're going to do this piece, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, so now how about a podcast? And I'm sitting there, oh, I wasn't counting on that, right? So there's your contrast, and I'm sitting there fretting over this. I said to her, I didn't imagine myself in one of those. So, but but now that I'm here, it's like this is actually a ton of fun. So we're good.
Yeah, it's I mean, and, but you gravitate to people, right? And you engage with people that,
Right.
where, they appreciate you and you get them and everybody's, kind of pretty much on the same page. And where we different, it's not it's not that we have a different ball that you were describing. It's only that we're viewing the ball from here or viewing the ball from there.
Yeah.
But we're it's that story of like you ask 10 people who saw an accident what happened and you'll get 10 different stories, right? Still looking at the same accident. So
Well,
it's
because reality is perceptional. So
right, right,
yeah,
right. So, but we can learn to look beyond that and say, yeah, no, I get it. I mean, we have slightly different definitions for certain words,
right.
but it's very clear in a very honest sense that we're both looking at it and doing our best to describe the same thing, which is a little bit beyond words.
Well, and that's where it became interesting in my writing, and this is where articulation became really important.
Yeah,
So when I started working with this new team, I got very finicky about how we articulate this. Well, we could make the sentence simpler, and we could say it like this. I said, but that's not really. That's the view from the old Earth. I call this dualistic place the old Earth.
right,
And I said, so from my old Earth, if I walked around the ball back to the old Earth, that's how I would say this. But I really would rather come at you from the new Earth, which is my beingness or isness, this beautiful flow,
right.
and describe it from here so that we can start changing our language.
Absolutely.
I said our language, I think, also keeps us stuck in particular realities. And if we could change our language, I think that would help us shift the consciousness we are so that we can collectively walk toward a more peaceful and a more open and more cooperative new earth. And so I got stickily about language in some of these places. so so the editor goes, but how do you mean exactly? And I'm thinking, okay, is there an analogy to this? Because I realize this is a very abstract thing. And if you don't hang in this being isness place, it's like, how do you describe this to people? so so under every chapter in the book, we put a section. It's called the Imagine, because of course I have friends that come out of the scientists, and they would look at me and go, "What do you mean by this?" Right? And I'm thinking, okay, analogy. There's got to be an analogy. So sometimes I would just think, well, imagine this, and think, oh, I get that. If you relay it that way, that now I understand. So then eventually we went back to the whole book, put an imagine under every chapter, and the people that are sitting there is like, what do you mean? How do you mean? I don't understand. And the imagine comes in. Oh, I know what you mean. I get that. It's like, okay, let's get the imagination going, to help people get into a space that sounds abstract and it doesn't become real until you step into it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in Toastmasters for 11 years and I joined because I wanted to be able to more effectively articulate what I was
Correct.
experiencing stuff. And over the years, I have really learned a lot. I mean, one of the things, I talk about win-win thinking a lot as a means of experiencing being one. And then I thought, well, and then just recently, right? So like the more you go, sort of the more clarity you get.
Yes.
And more recently, I got the idea. I said, you know what? This idea that if you want to feel better, help somebody else and you'll both feel better, that
Yes.
idea has been in our consciousness for a long time. It's been around. And so to point that out to people is that's what win-win is. That's what win-win is
Yes.
when that's happening. And so trying to find, you know, examples that have been in sort of the collective consciousness for a long time for people to help them understand more. I did one speech on the idea and talking about it that in terms of how to understand the how we project our consciousness into the world and see the
Yeah.
reflection back of our consciousness. And I said, yeah, I said, how we treat everybody is how we treat ourselves because we're all one. And I said, think about it, are you hard on yourself? Are you? And then, well, then do you notice yourself being hard on other people too?
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah. Yes.
how, and if so if we have a good relationship with ourselves and we treat ourselves well, we'll treat other people well. And
Yes.
so, but it's all this kind of again, that sort of challenge that you're talking about of how to help people relate more
Yes.
to to the higher vibrations to where, life gets better for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I just had a friend recently ask similar sort of a question. And I said, well, when you get to love yourself recklessly, and that was another thing, it just sort of bopped out. When you learn to love yourself recklessly, when you honor your own free will and you honor your self-care and you honor and you really learn to love yourself recklessly, the same way that our higher soul self does. That's unconditional love. That's a hard concept for people to grasp until you experience this amazing wellness. And I said, well, picture it like our sun. We look at it as, oh, there's a sunrise and then the sun disappears at night and then there's a sunset. I said, well, that's an illusion, right? So the sun always shines. It
Right.
always shines. Whether we experience night or day, it's always shining and it shines indiscriminately. Whether it shines on a battlefield or whether it shines on a city or the country or it's always shines. It does not judge. It doesn't say, oh, these people are at war. Let me just go dark now. I'm not going to shine for a minute now because, I don't approve of this. So then it goes, oh, like that. I said, you have that sunshine inside of you, and that sunshine is always loving you exactly as you are, no matter what. And when we as earthling can come into alignment with that love, then we start to love everything. It's like, how do you love everything? Yeah, because when you love yourself like that, when you really are in alignment and connected to that higher soul self that is like the sun that loves you unconditionally, then you can no longer judge anything because every being has that sun inside. That's what they call the eternal spark or the eternal flame or whatever you
Right.
want to
Right.
call that. But to me, it's like the sun that shines indiscriminately. It does not judge. It loves
I think that's a perfect way to think of it, Perfect.
right.
Yeah.
And so she says, love myself recklessly. But what are other people going to think? Like, won't they think it's narcissistic? I'm like, no, because when you love somebody like that, they're going to be able to feel that.
Yeah, it'll
And
resonate that
somebody
with
that,
them.
yeah. And I said, and somebody that's not able to receive that quite yet, they might judge that. But I said, that's not yours to do. That is theirs to resolve or to expand themselves in order to be able to receive more. I call that love able. A person that is more love able is more able to receive this amazing love for themselves. And I always tell them the most intimate relationship that you will ever, 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 ever cultivate is that between you and your higher soul self. And when that baby is in place, you will just love everything and everything becomes easy. And there is a grace that wasn't there before and a lack of judgment. It's like people struggle with that. I say, I love spheres. Why? No hard edges, no sides to take,
Nice. Yeah.
right? So that's another example. It's like, okay, see, grab that ball, hold that ball. There are no sides to take. The ball has no sides. And so, can you picture yourself living in a space where you just refrain from taking sides? Like I said, I know this is old pattern thinking that we have to take sides. You have to go to the election. You have to choose a party and you have to, I said, but why? If we just poured love onto everything, love dissolves fear and all of the symptoms that come from separation consciousness, per my perception, is if we just poured enough love into it all, then some of these things dissolve on their own, right? It's not, don't go fighting these energies because you
No,
just fuel them,
absolutely. Absolutely.
right?
What I found, in, at least in, from through the part of the ball that I'm looking at,
Yeah.
from my sort of unique perspective on that ball, is that acceptance is so healing, and I've had
Yes.
so many experiences of accepting people where they're at and just listening to them and drawing them out and just having wonderful experiences and just accepting whether I'm inspired to talk or listen or whatever I'm inspired to do in that moment, but just accept that guidance and stuff and
Right.
but even down to sort of a more lower vibration level of just accepting where people are at, and just well,
Yeah, it's like the way I
it's
look
good to
at
know
that.
it's good to know what you're thinking. That's good.
Yeah, the way I look at that is and it's I was trying to help myself get more past judgment. It's
Uh-huh.
been a long, arduous journey. So just to say, we're riddled with that. I was surprised just how much judgment I carried around. So, holy cow, there's a lot of judgment, one piece at a time. I figure just one step at a time, one step at a time.
There you go.
Um, is this whole idea of we agreed before we came here on a soul level we're going to step into forgetfulness. We're going to step into this spiritual amnesia that creates this separation consciousness, right? I'm over here and you're over there, and I'm over here, and the divine is definitely over there. And so, but as we move into the oneness consciousness and we let go of judgment, I thought, well, we needed the forgetfulness in order for us to have soul remembrances. And I've had lots of those. And so sometimes I just tell people, it's like, it's not that they're less evolved or less worthy, or we're all worthy because we're all divine, but they're just slower at remembering their soul, or slower at remembering the vastness of soul, or slower at stepping into their exploring what their soul turf is all about. Right. So I got to see a lot of my parallel lives in the process, because it's like, so where does this come from? Fun stuff sometimes. And I'd go into meditation and boom, I'm hanging in another place. It's like, what the heck is this? Well, then I got to learn about parallel life experience. Oh, okay, all righty, that's a new thing, right? So then the scientist has to go research this. And the more I did that, the more I said, okay, so I want to understand this, and I want to, right, and I would have one, and then I would have 10 more questions. And then the spirit you are goes, okay, you want answers? Yeah. Oh, well, okay. Why don't you have another experience? So we create that for ourselves. And I found out that being curious is a fabulous way of existing, because I get brought into new experiences, broader experiences, and then when I come across somebody that hasn't been there, it's like, it's okay, you're perfect just where you're at.
Yeah.
That is exactly where you need to be right now. Your soul has you in that spot because that's exactly the perfect spot for you. And so don't compare your soul's journey with that of somebody else. So to me, and because I do energy work with people, every soul is unparalleled. Every soul is so precious and unique and amazing. It's like, don't compare yourself with somebody else. It's like, you're here in that spot for a reason, and your soul has you there
Yeah.
for a reason. And when your next experience is necessary, it will be delivered. You don't
Yeah.
ever
I mean,
have to.
each soul is its own unique magnificence.
Yes, that's exactly it. The energy work over the years had really, I got to experience that so many times. Like this, here's another unique one. And I've never found two alike. So when somebody
No,
says,
no.
the normal human, and I laugh, I said, what the heck is a normal human? There's like, every human is a spirit, and there's nothing normal about any of it. It's like, normal human to me makes zero sense. It's like, it's like the army, put them all in the same uniform. They must be the same. No, 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 no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, so yeah, but that's what I love about humanity, is the diversity and just the magnificence and uniqueness of each soul. That's what I find so precious and beautiful about it all.
Yeah,
So
one of the things that I found, in my practices is that the stronger I get, the wider array of people and levels of consciousness that I can resonate with and
yes,
communicate with. And I learned that, if I'm in the zone, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm talking to someone about being one with all things in that experience. It could just be could just be trash talking on the tennis court, right? But it's infused with that joy, right? And that
Yes,
spontaneousness, right?
right.
And so there are ways that we can express the light we are and just in every different vibrational level.
Yes. Just have fun. I always say this girl likes to have fun
Yeah.
in whatever way that comes, whether you're playing with the kids or you're playing with the kitty cats or you're playing with whatever that is,
Yeah,
or with different friends or like you said, in different places. It really doesn't matter. You take that joy with you. It becomes an undercurrent that's just always there. I always can tap into that. It's not like it vanishes. It's not like, oh, I can get that when the next event comes. It's become ever present is what it
right,
is.
right.
And it's a beautiful place to be. And then it doesn't, even when an event come where people go, oh my gosh, how are you managing? And I'm like, well, the event from the outside, the appearance isn't so cool, maybe, but that existential joy is still here. Once that's cultivated, I don't know how you experience that. It's always here. Like yesterday, we went to a memorial service. A loved one had passed away, but I could feel him still. Like it's like, yeah, his body is, it's been cremated, but I said I could feel his spirit still. So so I was just happy. He's free. He can be with everybody now. You know what I mean? It's like, but just because I can feel and I have learned to communicate, if you will, with the other side, it sets you free. Once you have that connection to your higher self, you can communicate with so many other beings, and it sets you free in ways that logic just can't comprehend. And so I always encourage people, "Here, come this way, come this way." I like, open up, open up, open up. Take that thinking cap and just sometimes just take it off. Take that thinking cap off. It's if it's on too tight, just give it a rest for a little bit.
Indeed, indeed.
So
I mean, it's amazing how much we're capable of,
yes,
and that's kind of a lot where um, those thoughts are a lot of what's animating me right now, and sort of where I am in my self-discovery, self-acceptance,
right,
self-realization journey is that to and I have this technique that I just it's been working for me for a long time, right? And so if it works, don't fix it, right? Scientific point of view. And that is that the most efficient and effective way forward is to have a more articulate, something that you really spoke a lot to, which I appreciated, a more articulate understanding and acceptance of what's true right now. So I'll sit
mhm,
down and I'll say, well, what do I relate to having created in my life as of now? And I'll write that down, and then it'll
yes,
uh, open me up to be able to see even more places
right,
where I've used my will to consciously direct my mind what to do, and my mind has gone to work and created what the will told it to do, and um, and so I'm. A lot of times I'll record this. So I wake up in the morning, right, and I meditate. Well, what am I going to do today, right? And I go, what? And more days than not, I get, we'll record a podcast. And I say, well, what should it be about? And
right,
oftentimes, like the topic is like, I don't even know why I should think about that topic right now, or I don't even know why that I got that inspiration to talk about that topic. But by the time I'm done and the end of the day, it was like it all makes perfect sense to me.
right. Yeah,
But one of the things that is nice, and I reflect on some of my podcasts is that I just get excited. And the joy is like, yeah, this is, and it's like, and I think of the guy, I think it was Howard Thurman or somebody. He has this quote. And I'm paraphrase it, but I love it. I love it. He says, "Don't ask what the world needs. Do what makes you vitally alive, because what the
yeah,
world needs is people who are vitally alive."
yes,
And
yep.
so,
I
one of the
agree.
things that, I'm sort of proud of is like, I'm 71 and I want to be an example of someone that's still, enthusiastic and still full of energy and still, playing singles on a tennis court and still, doing all this great stuff, and that, it's not, you don't necessarily lose that with age. It's
No,
available.
see that's the thing. That's exactly my thing is I think the more source energy and the more aliveness we pull through, the more of that we live, the more of that we can sustain longer because it I to me the big thing I'm into right now is this whole okay, so the divine blueprint created a body that can renew itself, and I was taken into that experience. That's a whole nother story. That's going to be a whole nother book. And but it's like I witnessed a friend pass, and I thought, well, she was waiting for a liver transplant for 4 years, but we know, science knows, that the liver can reproduce itself in three. It regenerates itself in three. So I had a sort of a pissy day one day, if you will. And I was really mad. I'm really mad. Like she could have, like, if her body would have just done what it knows to do inherently, then she would have been fine. Like why like the liver could have just renewed itself, like why did it like she's waiting 4 years for a transplant and then she passed. And then I thought, well, I know it's in my life for a reason. And then I went through some of the illnesses I got to witness, like really close, immediate, and right in front of my face. And I thought that's an interesting array of illnesses and highly unusual. Now why is that in my life? And then comes this whole stem cell thing. And then spirit sits with me in the morning in the garden and says, okay, so here's the thing about aging. And here comes this whole spherical conceptual download, if you will. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's why these illnesses were here. And so immediately out comes the recorder, out comes the journal book. We got a journal on this. And the idea is if I can get old patterns that stagnate my energy field, if I can get that off of me and I have source energy flowing through me freely, would that cell, that stem cell that is really like a blank cell, be in a petri dish with a nourishing environment? So if I really loved myself recklessly enough, I really just allowed source to work itself through me, that beautiful high energy, that beautiful light that always shines, what if that is nourishing to our every cell in the body, including stem cells? Because when I asked about my friend when she passed, I said to Spirit, I don't understand. So what is the issue? And the answer was immediate. It's like her new cells were steeped in old patterns. Oh, and I cringed. I could feel that in my body.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
picture I got was a cell in a petri dish where the scientist, like myself, biologist maybe, goes in and puts the wrong medium in there and the cell just shrivels up and dies. And I went, oh, I could feel that. That does not feel good. But I thought, well, the space is all thinking, feeling, thinking, feeling, thinking, feeling. So if we kept that space clean and spiritual hygiene, I call it, and if we kept that space filled with love and filled with joy and processed emotions, just let them go through. Don't get married to them. Would we are we creating an environment for the body that it can really regenerate itself the way it's supposed to?
Well, there have been studies on longevity, and the only commonality they found in people that live like over 100, right, is they enjoy the heck out of their life, right?
Right,
And even people like George Burns, right, who smoked cigars and drank and
right,
everything, he lived past 100 because there was never a time that he wasn't having fun, you
right.
know?
See,
And
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 that's
you
but
know,
joy
and
is such a high vibrational state of being. You know this,
yeah.
right? So that's the thing. It's like, why bury ourselves under all this guilt and dragging grudges around? It's like just let go of that, just. But yeah, you're right. State of joy. That is so high vibrational. What cell wouldn't want to live in that,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
I mean, if I was a cell, that would be my choice, right?
Yeah. I
So
remember I remember leaving a yoga session years ago and saying to myself and just having the thought arise in my mind, there's no way I could have any disease in my body feeling as good as I do right now.
yes,
There's
exactly.
just
See
no
that
way, you know?
that's me. I'm always like, I'm feeling this good. My body's got to be in mint condition.
I love it. I
See,
love it.
that's exactly it. And so and you can't really teach that. You really have to live that and hope that that inspires people around you. I don't know how to really teach this.
Well, no, I think it's perfect because I do really believe that example is the most powerful form of leadership. And people watching this video, they're gonna think about vitality and
Yes.
joy in relation to aging and health. I mean, they're exposed to that thought, and to the extent that they're open to it, I mean, it'll resonate with them. There's some people that'll go like, "Oh yeah, that's true. I never thought about it that way, but now that I think about it, absolutely, right? I mean, there's going to be some segment of people that's going to describe, right?
Yeah, the people that can receive that. If they're sitting at a juncture where they can receive that, then that's good.
Yeah.
And that's always, I think, the best we can do is like, yeah, if we can reach the people that are open to receiving, we're good. So I don't
Yeah,
fret
and to
over that.
me, because I see that we're all one, I really see them as parts of me, right? So
Yes,
I want to be able to reach all as many of the parts of me as I can, and
yes,
and lift those, because that's how I see other people as part of me, and so
yeah, yeah.
so it all
On
fits
that ball,
together.
they're another little like a soccer ball, right? Oh, here's a facet, and there's a facet, and there's a
Yeah, yeah. So how did you like your first podcast?
fabulous, really fun. So that was good. You're a fabulous host, and it was an amazing first experience. So this is really good because I was sort of apprehensive. I felt like, let me saunter in and feel my way into this. Is this going to be fun, or is this going to be like, what's this going to be like? It's fun.
Well, good. So I have a favor to ask you.
Yes.
Um, my my guy who's helping me with social media says that I need to get one review a week. And so if I email you a link, could you type in a review for me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. And then another questions. Yeah, I got all kinds of stuff here.
All kinds of questions. Yeah.
All kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. If you know of people that are of a similar sort of vibration or energy or clarity or whatever adjective you want to make, that you think would enjoy being a guest on a podcast, if you could ask them to contact me and tell them that you were endorsed and referred. They were endorsed and referred by you.
Yeah, actually, I'm thinking of a friend. Have you heard of the concept of the blue zone? And this is related to aging and people living to be centenarians and things like that.
I've
And
heard
I
of it,
have
but I don't know anything about it.
got it. So there are blue zones on the planet that are being studied by physicians and social workers and different people, different arms of science, if you will, to see why does this town or why does this village have so many people that are over 100? What
Right.
creates that longevity in that place? And so he gives talks. He's one of the Blue Zone certified speakers. He speaks to that, like what was the research and why do people live so long in those places? What has been found? So there's just maybe one suggestion.
Yeah, and that
Um,
would be that would be good. That would be good. Well, anything that you'd like to share or ask for or whatever before we wrap it up.
yeah, well, we can be in touch. So then we can,
Okay, good.
when I think, usually I come, a whole barrage of more thought comes
Yeah,
after,
yeah,
right? So then, yeah, so when I have a thought or when something comes up, I'll just shoot you an email. Would that work?
that would be awesome. I would love that. I truly would. I truly would. Well, thank you, and I'm honored that you trusted me enough to be
Of
have your
course,
first podcast here. And I'm gonna just take you at your word and your smile that you enjoyed yourself, and that's a
I
good thing.
did. I did enjoy myself. So, yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I really, really appreciate that.
Oh, listen, you're wonderful, and as I'm sure there's no doubt in your mind, I had a great time as well. All right, so I'm gonna stop the recording now.